There is something we're all scared to do. All of us, we're all scared of something in life, probably many, many things. And one of those things that I'm scared of is to go live with you right now. This is something I've been resisting, but something I've wanted to do. You know, I know that when I post certain pieces of content these days, it does pretty well. Thousands of people get to see it and they have lots of great comments to it. But something I want to continuously practice in my life is to be expansive. That's a word that I'm focusing on right now, being expansive. Hello, wonderful to see those of you joining right now. And so I wanted to come on here live to practice for myself to be an example of being expansive or doing things that we're scared of. And one of the myths that a lot of people go into relationship coaching or any coaching, for example, good morning from Greece, so cool. A lot of people assume that coaching has to do with getting advice. I want to go talk to this person. Hopefully they're going to tell me what to do. Coaching couldn't be farther from that. Coaching's a lot about guidance. It's a lot about, did you see my cat in the background? It's a lot about actually being able to discover what might already be there for you, but is locked behind something. So for example, being live with you guys right now is a bit nerve-wracking for me because if you see the content that I post, the content that you're seeing, I actually get to script it and write it and then film it and edit it. And here I am just talking to you in the moment from around the world. And what's there for me, the fears that come up for me is, how many people are going to join? Will it be valuable? Will it be boring? Will it be worth enough for someone that they actually want to stick around and listen? So I thought I'd come on here and practice by example and actually go out and do something that I'm scared of. So another thing I wanted to talk about here is something that I'm focusing on in a coaching group that I'm in right now. I'm always getting personal development, and part of, I think, being a great coach is that you reach out for support to be coached, that we're actually learning from other people. And one of the things that we're focusing on right now is this idea or perspective or danger even of assuming you already know something. And we can all picture a moment where we're having a conversation with someone, maybe they're giving us some feedback and we're going, yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've heard that before. And the problem with that is as soon as we come from a place of, I've heard that before, or I already know this, we kind of rob ourselves of something really key or valuable that person might be offering us. Something that maybe we already know, but we're only seeing it one way. And so one of the real glorious things about growing is being able to recognize when we're acting like we already know what's going on. When we already know what's going on and we see it in this one particular way, it's very difficult to be open to a new perspective. And to me, the most valuable thing of personal development in any area is perspective shift. It's being able to see something in a brand new way. Because when we can see something in a brand new way, we can operate in that in a brand new way. We can create brand new results. The challenge is we like our patterns. We like to do what we know. Just in me sharing with you guys on this live, I like to post the recordings that I post. I like to post these back and forth conversations. This live with you is a bit more foreign to me. It's a bit scarier. It's a bit more raw. There's no script right now. I'm not reading off anything. I'm just talking to you. And so this conversation here is hopefully to spur on an invitation to letting yourself be scared and taking action anyways. I don't want to sound the whole cliche of do it scared, but something I often call out in my coaching is telling people to not use the word fearless. Some people want to come into coaching and their intention is, I want to be someone who's fearless. I really don't believe in the word fearless. I don't think it's an accurate word to describe a way to be, because if you're up to anything that matters to you, if you're in a relationship and there's a lot at stake, you really care about this person, well, then there's going to be something scary about your dialogue together. There's going to be something maybe you're afraid to share. And so often in relationships, we're trying to make sure that we say things the right way, that we don't make any mistakes, so that we do it perfectly, so that we don't look bad, so that we don't embarrass ourselves, so that this person still likes us. Now, the challenge in that is we actually need that vulnerability to actually connect with that person. And it's going to be scary. So I think one of the best gifts we can give ourselves is almost a freedom to be scared. You know, that if you're taking on something new, it's actually supposed to be nerve wracking. And that's okay. It's not something to run from. If anything, that's something to remind us that this thing actually really matters to us. You know, me being on here with this live, why I get nervous about it is because it really matters to me that what I'm putting out to you is valuable. It really matters to me. And sometimes I get scared, like, what if it's not valuable? What if I don't look good? It's like, well, that's part of it. That's a necessary risk in anything that really matters to us. And so I think, kind of to summarize a couple of things I've shared so far, one being an amazing path to growth for any of us is to be able to come from a perspective like, I don't know. Let's look. Let's get curious. I don't know. Maybe I don't know about myself. Maybe I don't know what my patterns are. Maybe I got an idea, but maybe there's more to it. And if we come for that curiosity, well, then we open ourselves up to new doors. We open ourselves up to new possibilities. And I just kind of scanning the comments, by the way, as I'm sharing, and I really appreciate some of these comments. Thank you very much for everyone who's commenting below. So that's one part of it, is coming at it with kind of this like curiosity mentality. And so I'm in this program right now, and I signed up to work with this coach to continue to expand myself. I want to make more of a difference with more people. I want my work to be more valuable and more beneficial to people. So I signed up for this program. And one of the things, someone's saying, say that this will be available later. I think I can save it. I'm sure I can save it, and I'll post it later. So it'll be up for 24 hours, I think. Anyways, I'm in this program, and one of the exercises they had us take on was to ask 10 questions to someone we really care about. And they're questions that can be vulnerable questions, like, what do you value about me? Where do you see I could improve? What do you see is getting in the way of the kind of person I really want to be? So quite vulnerable questions. Now, the thing about asking any vulnerable questions with people we care about is we might be scared to hear the answer. And also, they might be scared to share the answer. And so one of the practices we were taking on was that if you're asking someone a question and they're afraid to tell you the honest answer, maybe that says more about us than it does about them. Maybe I'm not exactly open to feedback as much as I'd like to be. And so I asked my wife these questions, and it was a very beautiful, I was very excited to hear her response to it. She said a lot of really beautiful things. And one of the things that I was practicing while asking her was to just listen to her without trying to justify or explain anything. And how often do we not do that, right? It's like we ask a question and we're kind of waiting for our turn to talk or to explain ourselves. And so here, when I was asking these questions, my coach gave this example to simply just say thank you when the person's answering. Don't get into it. Don't try to defend whatever they're saying. Just thank you, as a matter of receiving the contribution they're giving us by sharing their perspective. I think feedback is one of the things that a lot of us can be scared to hear. You know, how do we take on this feedback? What if it's something that kind of triggers me or cuts? Well, one part of looking at feedback is it's a generous contribution from somebody, and it's not necessarily the truth. It's simply feedback. And so this creates a whole open space to be able to actually hear other perspectives. That just because somebody says that they perceive me as needy or aggressive or impulsive. This is what my wife actually said, impulsive. And I know that sometimes, like, if something bothers me, I can really want to get to it right away. And sometimes that causes me to not see it from a full perspective. And so something that I'm practicing is slowing down, pausing, looking with a broader lens. And hearing that perspective from somebody else doesn't necessarily even mean it's the truth. It could be a really accurate thing to look at. And it could be just something to hear and notice, okay, when someone says that about me, what is it about that actually triggers me? Maybe it's something I already am concerned about myself. Maybe that's where there's some real work to do. So I'm just so happy for all of you to be on this. I think my goal was just kind of be talking to you guys for about 5 minutes here, but maybe I'll just stay on for a little longer and see if anybody has any questions about anything. So if anybody wants to write any questions down, I'm happy to spend another minute or two responding. It's not often I get to talk to you live. It's really cool. Anybody have any relationship questions they want to share? Just give you a moment to type that if someone's typing. Just tuned in, welcome. Let me scroll a little bit, see what's been said. Sorry, I struggle with being able to like talk to you and read the comments at the same time without getting distracted, being defensive. Yeah. What if they're not willing to answer those questions? That's interesting. So what if we have some important questions that we want to ask people, but they're not willing to answer them? My first thought, it's funny that you say that because, I love kind of having these heart-to-heart conversations with people. And at the same time, what if the other person isn't ready for it or they're nervous about it? I think the first thing to ask is, how are we asking? How are we setting them up for that conversation? Because if we're setting them up in a way that it feels obligatory, like they have to have these answers, then that can be a little bit pressury and cause them to not want to. Or maybe there's a way that we could set up the conversation so that if they were to actually share their answer, that we wouldn't react. Because that's a big part of it often. Someone who's scared to respond to those kinds of questions is like, well, if I tell you, you're just going to get mad at me later. It's like, okay, well, that's something for us we can be responsible for. So that's how to answer that. And I see some questions coming in. I'll just scroll so I can see that. How has this journey been for me? Like relationship coaching, like having a pregnant wife, like being married? I'm curious to know more about your question, Sabrina. As far as the journey of coaching, it's been a wild adventure. It continues to be a wild adventure, full of surprises and tons of fears and tons of courage. And yeah, I mean, I was just like, I'm brushing my teeth having a thought the other day. A lot of what's happening in my life is things I dreamed about not so long ago. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm not a genius and I'm not the hardest working person in the world. So what is it? How is it that so many of these great things have begun to happen in my life? And what I honestly attribute it to is courage. It's just scary things. Like, where are we scared? That is always like the best place to look to develop ourselves. Another question. How do we find our triggers? Anything that happens to activate our nervous system, where fear comes up, where we want to react instead of respond. That's a great place to look. And we all have tons of those, right? That's not unique to you or anybody. Another question I see, I'm working with my ex. The breakup was toxic. How do I keep us good colleagues? What a great question. Yeah. So if you've been in a relationship with somebody who's also in your workplace, that can be very challenging afterwards. That's why so many people don't start relationships in the workplace. It's like, what are we going to do if this doesn't work out? I think a big part of it would be to have a conversation of what your intentions are in the workplace. Obviously, if you work there and they work there, then there's certain things you want to get out of being there. And it might be really valuable to have a conversation together to go, okay, how do you want this work environment to be? And to actually ask that of each other. And what would be some things that would make it beneficial for you or supportive for you? And to get that kind of back and forth. So then you both know that you're there for a reason. You're there to work. You're there to do whatever your profession is. And you want to be amicable. You want to be able to still be able to maybe even go to each other if you have similar tasks or things that involve being on a team. So that would be my invitation there, is to have a conversation of what's your intention of actually being at the workplace. Just scrolling down a bit. Do you believe in the male side and feminine side? Well, so I think you mean masculine and feminine. I love John Gray. Could this be why relationships are so tough nowadays? John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, is one of the first books I ever read. I think I was 15 when I read that book because I was stuck in the friend zone and I wanted to understand women better. I was like, why the heck do I keep ending up in the friend zone? I need to understand what's going on because I thought I'm being a good guy. I feel like I'm being a guy worth dating. For some reason, that wasn't what was happening. So the male feminine side or the masculine feminine side, yeah, I absolutely believe those are key facets of relationships that are talked a lot about, but also overlooked these days. I think part of the challenges that a lot of people face in relationships today is roles are not defined as they once were. There were a lot of roles back, 60 years ago, 40 years ago. So people kind of knew what to do and what not to do. Even if they didn't like it, there still was a role. Nowadays, there's so much fluidity in what's expected between a man and a man, a man and a woman, whoever it is. And so I think what often is not talked about in relationships is what is our roles together, and how much of my feminine side is valuable in this relationship, how much of my masculine side is valuable in this relationship, because we all have both. The question is, where is that kind of sweet spot that I want to own or show up as? So it's a very valuable conversation to have, and I think John Gray has a lot of really great things to share about that. Another question. I'll just go. You guys have got some great questions now, so I'll go answer a couple more and then we'll hop off, because I'm actually in a course program right now that I got to go back to. But this is great. So, what if my partner is impulsive to my feedback, to his questions, and he hits me? I really want to keep this relationship, but I try to tell him about the past, and I just couldn't. When I tried, I got hit. I mean, I'm going to speak frank with you here. If you're being hit, if you're being physically abused, I think the problem isn't to get feedback from this person. It is to create space from this person. There is no, I think the only time physical contact is actually okay is if it is to protect someone, or is to protect yourself. Other than that, that would be, I'm sorry that's happening to you. That's brutal. And I'm sure you're not the only person even on this live that's experienced that. So I would invite you, rather than to get that feedback from your partner, I would invite you to look at what's keeping you there and allowing you to tolerate that kind of behavior from that person. That's where I would look. That's not a small thing, by the way. I know I'm posing quite a big thing to look at, but that's definitely where I would look. And, of course, if you're looking for support, definitely click the link in my bio for support on how to get coaching or get further support. But thank you for sharing that vulnerable question. Another question here for the other perspective. At the university, we're preparing together to exams. Each of us launched a discussion on one topic, representing but being open to another's knowledge. I'm not clear on the question there. That might be just more of a share, perhaps. Another question. If you're dating someone, but she wants to take things slow, it's been 4 months, when is the right time to ask to make it official? Yeah, well, I don't think there is a right time. Here's the thing. You're clearly feeling like you're excited to commit more, and you're curious where this other person is at. And so I would invite a conversation to actually check in. When you said take it slow, I was kind of curious, what do you mean by that? And how slow is slow for you? And where do you see maybe this going? Are you liking its progression? Or what would be a logical next step for you? What would be a next step that feels good for you? And then from there, you can start to share a little bit more about, your excitement for the relationship, and that you're interested in being committed together in another level. And yeah, I would just invite you to start that dialogue. It might take releasing some fear, or recognizing some fear, and taking that step forward in the face of it. Because I know that can be a very scary conversation to ask, are we exclusive with each other, or are you ready to commit together? So that would be my invitation there. And there is no right time. There is no right time. It's whatever works for you. I think with my wife and I, it was at 5 months probably. But before that, we talked about exclusivity, maybe a month in. Are you the only person I'm dating, kind of thing? So is that the right way to do it? No, it's just a way to do it. So I think it's more about trusting your intuition and your gut about what you're okay with and what feels good to you. I'll just take 2 more and then I'll hop off. You guys are so great. I really appreciate these questions and appreciate you tuning in. What are some green flags for a healthy relationship for someone who hasn't had one? What an honest and vulnerable question. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I became a relationship coach because I didn't have a clear example of a healthy relationship in my life. I looked to my grandparents, which were multiple generations away. I looked to my uncle, who I rarely saw, and my mom raised me by herself. And she chose to really commit to being a mom and didn't date. So it was just me and going out there and kind of guessing what's healthy. And so it's hard to know what those green flags are. I think if I could offer a few, communication's a huge one. Is this person sharing how they feel? Are they sharing what their intentions are? Are they sharing when they're triggered or upset? Those would be great green flags to look at. Are they on time? Are they their word? Do they follow through with what they say they're going to do? Now, don't look at this like perfection, by the way. Whenever I'm saying green flags, then people start to kind of like zero in and go, has to be like this. Doesn't mean get rigid. Doesn't mean that. But those are some things to look for. I think if someone talks proudly about their breakups, I think that's a green flag. And when they're talking about past relationships, not too much, obviously, they're talking about them. Maybe you talk about what's your relationship history like, and they bring it up, and they aren't fully just blaming and shaming the other person. They're actually like going like, they were really great to help teach me these kinds of things. That's a really great green flag, because it's definitely a red flag if you're just talking shit about all your exes. They were people you dated, so there's something you have in common. But yeah, those would be some green flags. I love that question. What else? Yeah, I think integrity is a big one. Open communication, initiative. Yeah, sharing what they're scared about is a really green flag. People who are sharing what they're anxious or nervous about is freaking awesome. And I just want to see more of that. Like me coming on this video being like, I'm nervous to talk to you guys live because I don't know what you're going to say and I want to do a great job. And so sharing that, as soon as I shared it, I felt more comfortable. And I think that's something that we all could benefit more from, and celebrating each other. So those are my answers to that. We'll do kind of last one here. What advice do you have for friends that have articulated being attracted to one another and are willing to consider a relationship? Let me make sure I understand that. What advice do you have for friends that have articulated being attracted to one another? Okay, they said I'm attracted to each other and are willing to consider a relationship, but the guy's not putting forth the same effort. Yeah, okay. So this is a very common situation where there's a difference in effort between two people, right? So maybe you're feeling like you're putting more in the other person. So the challenge with that, even in the question, is it depends what that effort is measured off of. So an example I often use in my coaching is I talk about love languages. My wife's love language is acts of service. My love languages is words of affirmation and physical touch. And so sometimes I used to come home and I'd see her and I'd be excited to see her and I'd say, oh, I missed you. I've been thinking about you. I appreciate you, these kinds of things. And meanwhile, she might have done something really nice for me. Maybe it's, help me with some of my clothes, or made the house more comfortable, or picked something up that I wanted, or got me this thing that I was thinking about, or, brought my favorite treat home, whatever it is. Now, it's very easy for me to then think I'm putting more effort than she is because I'm saying all these wonderful things. And it's very easy for her to go, she's putting more effort than I am because she's doing all these wonderful things. Now, the challenge is if we have different love languages and don't recognize that, it's easily misconstrued. So, not saying that you aren't putting the effort and you want to see more of, not saying that's the case, and inviting you to look and communicate with this person. What is it, the effort you're looking for that's being unmet? Because they might actually even want to give it to you. They might just not know what it is. That's so common in relationships. People who genuinely care about each other. And they're just trying to show love in a way that's not actually landing. And so what do we often not do? We often don't ask. We often don't actually ask specifically, by the way. Now, let me preface this a little bit. Don't go to someone and say, I wish you put more effort into this relationship. Because what you're likely going to be met with is defensiveness. I do. I put tons of effort in this relationship. Okay, so maybe the effort you're talking about isn't the effort they're talking about. So what I coach people a lot on, and a lot of us just aren't well practiced in this, is being able to make specific requests. Honey, I really love it when you give me a hug for no reason. Darling, I really appreciate it when you are out somewhere and you ask me if I'd like something from there. You bring something back for me. That's a specific request that now, oh, that's what you appreciate. I can do that. I want to do that. So that would be my invitation there, is to get clear about what you mean by the effort and to have a conversation about, what kind of effort you'd be appreciating. It's a great question. And I'm excited that you guys are both attracted to each other and considering a relationship. So, yeah, you guys are amazing. There's more questions. I'm sorry, I got to hop off and head back to this course that I'm in, but I'm going to do more lives. I'm definitely going to do more lives because this was a lot of fun, and I really appreciated the questions. And so, feel free to come on in the future anytime. I will not do this at any particular time. It'll be random, and feel free to come with your questions, and I'll come with a topic in mind. So, love you guys. Thank you so much for this. It was fun. Hope you're having a great evening, morning, night, wherever you are, and sending you love with whatever you're dealing with. Talk to you soon. Bye.